Welcome back to A Bite from the Money Sandwich, where we provide practical and easy to understand tips and ideas on how to manage your money better, so as to let you retire with comfort and on your own terms. Looking to understand how you might be able to deduct car expenses on your tax return this year? Today, I'm joined by Chris Noone, who is the CEO of Carly Car Subscription. Carly is one of the leading companies driving transition into sustainable mobility through car subscription and try before you buy opportunities for electric vehicles. Chris delves into tax deductions for car usage, stressing the importance of tracking for tax purposes. We also explore various car buying and leasing options, including the benefits and challenges of electric vehicles and car subscription services. From insurance coverage to financial considerations, the discussion covers everything you need to know to make an informed decision. Well, welcome, Chris, to the show. Thank you for being here on this cold, very cold Tuesday winter morning in Sydney. How are you going?
Very well, thanks. Great to be here.
Great. Now, Carly Car Subscriptions, and we'll get into what car subscriptions are lately, but Carly, I must admit, until I spoke with you earlier, I hadn't heard of Carly. So please, can you just give me a bit of background on what Carly's car subscriptions are?
So we're an ASX listed company. We offer people the ability to subscribe to a car as an alternative to buying, leasing, or financing a car. So for us, a subscription is a minimum 30-day commitment. Then it can be a monthly recurring subscription, just like your streaming subscriptions or your phone subscription. And then it's 30 days notice to terminate. So on average, our subscribers subscribe to a vehicle for just over 5 months.
Okay, it's interesting, and I think we see the share cars on the road now, and there's more of that because people, especially if you're living, a lot of units are being built in Sydney, for example, where we are, and the other major cities. There isn't parking, so people share all these type of cars where you don't have to have a full commitment to actually spending $50,000, $60,000 on a car. It makes sense. So we'll get into a bit more of that. But one of the main reasons I really wanted you on the show is it is tax time. People do use their car, if they've got their own small business or they've got a corporate car, but even people who've got a sort of side hustle or a small business, you can actually get tax deductions with having the use of a car. So just give it, if you wouldn't mind, the sort of the 101 about using your car and maybe claiming a tax deduction.
Yep. So essentially, any car that you use for any type of business purpose could be considered as a tax deduction. So you need to be careful to be able to differentiate between business usage and personal usage. And typically you would need to keep a logbook for at least 4 months of the year, recording your business usage of the vehicle. Then you can extrapolate that over the full year. There are a couple of different methods you could use. You could look at the actual cost of the vehicle and then being able to claim the business proportion. There's also a cents per kilometre method as well. So the ATO has fairly well documented the requirements for claiming the business usage. You also need to be careful that your employer is not reimbursing you already for that usage. But if it is legitimate usage, such as if you have to visit multiple sites during the day, you might be able to claim the travel between those sites. Now, travel from your home to your place of work is not deductible, but then if you have to go to multiple sites throughout the day, those extra trips could be tax deductible. With our car subscription product, we've actually got an ATO product ruling, which is exclusive to our company, and it defines exactly how tax deductions work for our car subscription product, and also the treatment for fringe benefits tax as well. So that gives our customers a lot of comfort knowing that the ATO recognises our car subscription product and defines exactly how the tax deductions work. So there's no uncertainty or risk.
Yeah, no, that's good. And it is just one of those things that I had my own small business for over 30 years. Having a logbook for 4 months, you think, oh, that's a pain, but you realise if you do use your car for your business, how much a difference it can make to your tax. So it really is worth doing. And you once you get into a habit, and you only have to do it 4 months in every year, it really is an easy progress. And I do think if you've got those rulings from the ATO, that you just want to be sure when you put your tax return in every year that you've got that comfort that you are doing the right thing. So no, it's excellent that you've got that. Okay, so what are some things you've sort of said, that if not driving to and from work, but then if you've got to go out to multiple sites, which people can do, or they've got to go out and get deliveries or something like that. But I suppose, your petrol's tax deduct, all the things you would use. And as you said, you can either use the percentage per kilometre, or you're using separating business to personal. But everything's deductible, isn't it? Like, if you've got to put repairs on your car, if you've got the cost of registering your car, all those sort of things adds to your expenses of running that car, I presume.
That's right. As long as you claim the business proportion of the use. So you couldn't claim 100% of your registration, but you could claim the business proportion of that registration cost.
Okay.
And also, there are some great apps that are available now that help you keep an electronic logbook. So you don't, gone are the days where you need to keep a physical logbook of writing down odometer readings and what the trip was. The apps actually record the distance automatically, and it's really easy to record everything you need for the ATO, and a number of them are ATO compliant as well.
Okay, I didn't know that. Yes, and I was one of those people for a long time. Used to have to get those little books from the news agents every year and fill that out. So if that's done, that makes the life even a lot easier. Okay, so and it is important that you might even have a side, pardon me, side business. You don't have to have your own company. You don't have to be part of a big corporation. If you've got a side business, as long as your business is registered, you can actually use your car for business.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, so for a lot of people, and I was one of those, definitely those people, when you went to buy a car, you're up for, and I know we're talking about car subscriptions as another alternative, but it'd be good to know a bit of basics or 101 around how to buy the car, because it used to be you get a novated lease, some people get a personal loan. So could you just give a bit of background on that?
So there's a few different ways to buy a car. So you could buy a car for cash. The advantage for that is it's your car straight away. You're not paying any interest on it, but you need to save up that money to buy the car. Another opportunity is to take out a loan. Now, with that, you're probably getting a better car than you could afford with the money you've got now. You only need to put down a reasonable deposit, but you are paying interest. And you've also got to remember that while through the lifetime of the car is depreciating in value. So you're always going to be able to sell the car for less than the loan that you took out typically. So you've got to consider that you're financing a depreciating asset, which is different to a home. Usually a home appreciates in value. You're financing an appreciating asset there, but a car is quite different. There's also an opportunity to lease a vehicle, and also another variation of that, which is the novated lease. And a novated lease is where you have a three-way agreement with the leasing company and your employer can take out the cost of the vehicle in pre-tax dollars. So this is what's called a salary sacrifice. And this means that the end cost of the vehicle is less because you're not paying tax on the dollars that you are using to pay for the vehicle. Now, some of the downsides are that you need to enter into a longer term lease period of 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And also, if you become unemployed or change employers, it can be difficult to move that lease to another employer, or you may not be able to afford it while you're unemployed. So you've got to consider about the permanency of your employment and whether you're expecting any changes. There's also another variant of the novated lease, and this is for electric vehicles. And this is where there is an even better tax savings, where with a novated lease for an electric vehicle, which is under the luxury car tax threshold, which is around, I think, about $80,000, high $80,000 at the moment, there's what they call a fringe benefits tax exemption. And normally when you salary sacrifice, a fringe benefits tax also kicks in. But for the instance of a electric vehicle, the fringe benefits tax is exempt. So it means that leasing an electric vehicle is much cheaper than leasing a similarly valued petrol car or diesel. So that's why a number of people are taking out novated leases for electric vehicles, and a large proportion of the novated leases being written today are actually for electric vehicles. And this is how the government is encouraging people to transition to electric vehicles.
And anyone who's been in small business, Chris, will know that, yeah, fringe benefits tax added on makes a huge difference. It's a killer. But it's interesting that I caught an Uber, and speaking to the driver, he had a Tesla, an EV car, and he just said it just made for his life so much easier. The cost to run it was easier, and he just plugs it into his home every night, and it runs for 400 kilometers the next day. And he's already done 100,000 kilometers in less than a year in that Tesla, and so he loves it. But I must admit, I didn't know about the fringe benefits tax exemption existed for EV, so that makes a big difference, I could see.
It's really driving the industry, and it's become quite a popular way for people to get into electric vehicles.
Yeah. Okay. So when you're talking about novated leasing, I think that was a really important point you made, that when people do get loans, and I talk about people when you would have heard from me in plenty of the podcast, for any of the listeners, talking about using loans to buy appreciating assets like property, like shares, and for long-term investment. But you're exactly right. When people buy cars, they have that thought that, well, this is an asset. I've got this asset and all that, but they forget as soon as they drive it out of the car lot, it depreciates. It's going down in value, whereas your loan's probably not going down as fast. So it is something I know, when people sort of say eventually want to sell their car and they realize, yep, the car's gone from 50,000 down to 10,000 or 15,000, and they've still got a $30,000 loan. It's a bit of a shock the first time around. So it was a really good point you made there about it. A car is a depreciating asset. Okay, so just tell me a bit about, because I'm really curious myself, someone who's had a car for 7 years and thinking about updating. And after I was driving this Tesla on the weekend, I was actually quite keen to do a test drive. So car subscription is something that's new, and I'd love to just hear a bit more. How does it actually work in practice for someone? I think you just said, you could use it for 30 days to see what it's like.
That's right. So the minimum period for a car subscription is 30 days. Right. So we sit between rental and longer forms of purchase, such as lease, loan, and outright purchase. So minimum 30 days, and it can be a monthly recurring subscription, just like your Netflix account. And then it's 30 days notice to terminate. On average, our customers, who are both individuals and businesses, subscribe for about 5 months. So it's not a replacement for buying a car, but it's ideal for those people who may not need a car for the full 12 months of the year. They might be traveling in 6 months' time. They might be changing jobs. They might be concerned about the economy and don't want to take out a loan at the current time. They might be wanting to trial an electric vehicle before they make a purchase. So there's lots of different reasons that people and businesses would subscribe to a car, because it gives them the exact car that's right for their needs right now. And then when their needs change, they can switch to another type of vehicle, or they can hand the car back and they have zero costs. One of the great things about subscription is there's no depreciation, and insurance, registration, and maintenance are all included in the weekly fee. So you know exactly what you're going to be paying from week to week. You can upgrade the car, you can downgrade the car, you could hand it back when you don't need it. So a lot of our customers, they know that they don't need a car for certain periods of the year. There's some people who are, traveling for a few months, and they're saying, well, why should I leave the car sitting at home? I may have to pay for parking. I have to pay insurance. The car is depreciating. I'm, running through rego as well. So not having a car means you have zero costs for a car. So a lot of people are really reassessing as to whether they do need to buy a car and then leave it sitting there not using it. That's actually costing them money. So also other people buy a car and after 6 months or 12 months, they find, oh, it's not actually the ideal car for them. They might have changed jobs and their commuting habits are different, or they might have taken up a new sport or hobby on the weekend and they want a different car for that. Or, they might say, oh, move to a place that's got much better public transport. They leave the car at home. So for all those reasons, car subscription is a great way to get the car to suit your lifestyle and your business needs, rather than you having to fit your life around the car that you own.
Yeah, and it's true. We were lucky enough to be invited to a wedding overseas, but we decided to make a big trip of it. So we were away for nearly 2 months and the car just sat here doing nothing. So, I can absolutely see how for a lot of people that could be applicable. I would actually see this as in for people who are retirees, who are planning to do a lot of travel or that, or may not need the car as much as they used to. So, no, I can see that. And is there far more emphasis on EV type vehicles than just standard vehicles with your car subscriptions?
The interest is increasing in electric vehicles, and we've actually launched a new product called EV Trial. And this is because a lot of customers were coming to us and saying that they thought they wanted to buy an EV, but they had so many questions. They were investing in a whole new technology and driving style, and they weren't quite ready to go out and spend $40,000, $60,000, $80,000 on an EV without really understanding it. The 10 or 20-minute test drive at the dealer is not going to let you answer all the questions around how easy is it to charge, how often do I need to charge, how much does it cost? All those things you need to find out over a period of time. So we launched EV Trial to enable people to trial vehicles for a month or more, really get to understand using them going to work, going away on the weekends, maybe going away on a family holiday, doing long distance trips, understanding how to charge at home and using public fast chargers as well, and get an appreciation for the pros and cons of electric vehicles. And we think that electric vehicles are great if they suit your lifestyle and your business needs. Just as today, not everyone drives a diesel four-wheel drive. Not everyone drives an economical hatch. People choose cars because they suit their needs and suit their budget. And it's exactly the same thing for electric vehicles. For some people, an electric vehicle might be absolutely the right choice. For other people, because they might not be able to charge at home. They may drive very long distances in a single day, and it might be difficult to charge. For those people, they may not be the best vehicles yet. In a few years' time, as range improves and charging infrastructure improves, they may be the best car for them. But we really want to empower people to make their own decisions about whether an EV is right for them, build the confidence so that they can actually go out and buy an EV knowing that it's the right decision for them.
And what are some of the considerations? Obviously, it's to drive it. There's no motor, so it's going to be quiet for a start for a lot of people. I'm an old rev head from way back, so it's definitely different driving experience. But just say some of the considerations that you're not going to need a petrol station anymore.
That's right. Well, I actually did the EV trial myself because I currently drive an older petrol vehicle. And the reason I've got an older vehicle is I don't drive very much. I really drive it to the bus stop and go to the beach on the weekends, occasionally go camping. So I don't need an expensive car because I don't spend a lot of time in it. So I did the EV trial to really understand whether I should be moving to an electric vehicle. Fortunately, I can charge at home and I've got solar as well. So most of the charging was very, very inexpensive for me. I did a few long trips, but I planned those trips so I didn't really need to charge while I was away. So over a month of using the vehicle, I never had to use the public fast chargers. There's a perception in the market that there are probably not enough chargers. In my experience, I never had a problem with chargers because I didn't need to use them. Now, someone else with a different circumstances, different driving habits, may have to use fast chargers a lot. and in their particular area, they may not be enough. So it's a very personal thing. The other thing for me is because I don't drive very much, even though I'm saving on petrol, I'm not saving a lot of money. I typically spend around $20 to $30 a week on petrol. So if I was to buy an EV, the maximum I could save would be $20 to $30.
Sure.
But my capital outlay would be a whole lot more than what I'm paying now. So for me, I certainly believe in EVs. I believe that they are probably the technology that it's best to transition to in terms of the environment and climate. But we also appreciate that they're ideal for some people and not quite ideal for some other people. Perhaps they will be more suitable in the future as technology improves, but at the moment, we really believe in empowering people to make their own decision based on their own needs.
Yeah, and I think you made a really good point there in, especially with the rising cost of living. Interest rates on your mortgages are up now over 6%. People are wanting to watch their pennies and any savings they can have. And as you said, it was the old days, old way thinking. Yep, you did get a lease, you did get a personal loan for $60,000 or $40,000, whatever it was for a car. But in a lot of situations, that just doesn't make sense anymore. That's a lot of expense that you're putting out for a monthly loan or lease that, yeah, you may just not use. And one of the other things, and I wanted to talk to you about that, talking about mortgage rates, and people are wanting to buy property, even if it's an investment property, or their own home. Trying to get a mortgage now is harder than ever, and so your what's on your expenses every month is important. And so I imagine if you're wanting to buy a car, but you're also looking to get a home loan, that's going to make an impact.
That's right. So the bank will look at your outgoings on a monthly basis, and they'll look at other debt that you have as well. So if you have a car loan, that's treated as debt, and it can be quite expensive to terminate that car loan. And you might be in a position where the amount you can borrow for your home is limited because you do actually have a car loan. Now, if you had a car subscription, you could actually hand the car back if you wanted, if you thought you could actually survive without it for a while. You wouldn't see the expenses going out every week for that vehicle. And it gives you the flexibility then to subscribe to a car later on when you've got your loan, when you're more financially secure, or then take out a loan later on. So it's really about giving people flexibility and control of their own finances and making sure that the car is at the right price for their circumstances at the time.
Yeah, I think, imagine for how many people this would have been a godsend during COVID. There's a lot of people were temporarily out of work, or if you're in the transport industry, or you're a pilot, definitely you didn't have a job for a couple of years. But if you had a lease, it's compared to a car subscription, that would have absolutely made a huge difference for a lot of people. Okay, so is there any just other general tips, people who've got a car? I get that if you're looking at a new car, you could look at a car subscription compared to a loan or a lease. But is there any other things? Which everyone is worried about the rising cost of living at the moment, and our other tips when it comes around cars that you might suggest?
I think there are a lot of other options available now. If you could go back 10 or 20 years, buying a car or financing a car was the way to go. Everyone pretty much did that. These days, public transport is a lot better. As you mentioned before, there are car share programs where you can rent a car for a few hours or a couple of days. You've then got subscription. Then you've got the longer forms of ownership, such as lease and loan and outright purchase. And people, really should investigate what is the right way for them to access a vehicle. And it's all about making sure that the vehicle is highly utilised. If you're using your car every day, probably makes sense to buy it. If you're only using a car one day on the weekend, probably car share makes sense. If you need a car for a certain number of months of the year, or you're worried about potential unemployment or risks in the economy, maybe car subscription is the smartest way to go. So I'd really encourage people to look at the different options, do their own sums, look at their own individual circumstances, because everyone is different. And then you'll be able to experiment with different types of vehicle usage and find the model that's best for you.
Thank you for that. One of the things that unfortunately, I always look at worst case scenario. You're saying that, all your rego and all those sort of things are included in your car subscription. So what if unfortunately, some idiot comes out of the left street and hits your car and you have an accident? What actually happens under a car subscription?
So we provide the insurance for the vehicle. In that situation, you're not at fault. The insurance would cover that. So there is an excess payable for an at-fault accident, which is normal, which is just like your own car insurance.
Right.
But our insurance policy covers that. So you're protected from that as well.
Okay, excellent. Well, Chris, it's been a real eye-opener. Thank you very much for that. I think there's a lot of people would have really will enjoy understanding about this car subscriptions and the process, because I do see, we don't want to just keep doing it the way we used to do it. It's cost of living. People do need to think different ways, and this is a perfect way that for people who are thinking about buying a new car or replacing a car as a really plausible option. So thank you for being a guest. But one of the things I actually always do ask a guest who's on our show is, as our final question is there any piece of advice that you've been given or that you know of that's really resonated with you that you'd like to share with the audience?
I think the advice I got was always keep reinventing yourself. The world's changing very quickly now. You need to keep learning all the time and transitioning. The job market that I came into when I left university is very different to the job market now. The product that I'm working with now didn't exist when I was at university.
Right.
So you need to be inquisitive. You need to keep upskilling yourself. You need to keep transitioning because the world doesn't stand still. You need to move with that, and you need to be slightly ahead of the curve to be successful.
Chris, brilliant. Really like that. Thank you again for being a guest on the show, and appreciate all your knowledge and tips that you provided today. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Great to talk to you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to know more about Chris Noone and his company Carly Car Subscription, visit www.carly.co, or feel free to email me on admin@themoneysandwich.com or visit our website themoneysandwich.com if you have any questions or would like to learn more. Enjoyed this episode and want to hear more of A Bite from the Money Sandwich? Make sure you subscribe on your platform of choice so you can automatically receive each episode as soon as it's released. As with every podcast, this information is not advice, as not personalised to your own situation. And past performance is never guaranteed for the future. What we are trying to do here is to provide tips, coaching and education to help improve your money knowledge, which we believe can only be a good thing. See you next time when we take another bite from the Money Sandwich.